And it's Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Talking Business and the Marketing Club of New York. We're in New York City for breakfast today with one of our friends in from Vancouver, and that is David Allison. And David is the president of the Valuegraphics research company. He has a new book. David, good to see you. What's your week in New York been like?
It's been an amazing week. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, and always happy to come to New York.
Well, good. Always good to see you, and you've been a visitor to the Marketing Club of New York several times, and you got a new book out called The Death of Demographics, about how businesses can better target and find their customers and prospects. Tell us about why you wrote the book.
I guess the best way to think about this book and the title, The Death of Demographics, is that it really turns out, after a whole lot of research we've done around the world, that a 27-year-old girl, a 27-year-old woman who lives in New York and earns $50,000 a year might have more in common with a 65-year-old Argentinian man than another 27-year-old woman who lives in New York and earns the same amount of money. Demographics are a terrible way for us to understand people. It's a legacy system from millennia ago when men had to behave in a certain way, women had to behave in a certain way. We all had a demographic job to do, but this is no longer the case. And yet we still continue to use this as a way to think we're understanding people and that we can learn something about them based on these demographic profiles.
Very good. Well, I remember years ago doing prism codes to help target a large credit card file, find financial service prospects. But you say you got to go beyond demographics, you got to go beyond psychographics to value graphics. Tell us about that progression.
Yeah, if you think about it like a three-legged stool, demographics are a really great way to describe a group of people, kind of put a fence around them, if you will, and just say, okay, our target audience for reading glasses. Reading glasses is always a good example. People who are going to buy reading glasses are going to be a certain age. That's just a demographic reality. They're not going to sell to young people. But then assuming that just because you understand the demographics of your target audience, you also understand who they are, that's the problem. Now, let's go to psychographics. Psychographics, you may know that the people who are going to buy your reading glasses buy on average one a month, and they spend an average of $40 a pair each time that they do this, and that they have a collection of 10 or a dozen of them around their house. All good stuff to know. That's a historical record of past behaviors, and everything we collect that's not demographics is kind of psychographics, right? It's whether it's click studies, emotional indexes, brand preferences, likes, beliefs, any of that kind of stuff. It all comes from the same place, which is the past, because it's already happened. We have a record of it. We wrote it down. It's done. What we're all trying to do as marketers is to get people to do something different next. And in order for that to make sense, you need to know how they're going to make a decision. And the human brains only use one thing to make decisions, and that's values. So you need value graphics to understand the future, demographics to understand who we're talking about, and psychographics to understand the past.
And you've identified 56 key values that you say and have found from your research works to identify people and their interests around the world. Tell us about a few of those 56 values.
Well, here in the United States, for example, the most important value to everybody in the entire country is belonging. And when you think about some of the things that have been going on in the political sphere in the last little while, it's not surprising to learn that Americans, more than anything, are very, very driven by belonging to a group. We've got two groups of people in general in this country. There's the red people and the blue people, and it's very dominant in the whole political conversation and the whole national conversation and what's going on in everyone's life in all kinds of different ways. Now, in other countries in the world where belonging is not as important, you're not going to see that same kind of manifestation of behaviors coming out of a particular value. Other values on the list: personal growth, ambition, social standing, environmentalism, family, relationships, community, health and well-being. There are 56 of them, and those 56 values are the keys to understanding how everybody makes every decision about everything all day long, 24/7, 365.
Very good. And tell us a little bit about how it all works. You know, a lot of us in the Marketing Club of New York have direct marketing, direct mail backgrounds. We used to do a lot of modeling in that era. How do you apply this to social media, email, other contemporary online communications methods?
Well, there's a term in the research world called the last mile. which is where you pile all the data you have, all the insights you have, the demographics, the psychographics around a particular group of people that you want to communicate with through whatever channel, pile it all up on the table, and then you have to make a guess. At some point, the data leaves you to make an informed decision, but a human being has to go, okay, based on everything we know, we're going to do this. What Valuegraphics makes happen is instead of it being a last mile, it's a last 100 yards. Because you know what direction to head in. That leap that you have to make. And this is our strategy. This is what we're going to say on social media. This is what we're going to say on LinkedIn. This is the promotion we're going to run first, and then we're going to run that one. All those guesses, those informed, intuitive guesses that come at the end of the process, if you know that you need to be heading down a road that connects to family or personal growth or ambition, as opposed to environmentalism or friendship or community, you know what to say, how to say it, how to pitch it, how to prioritize it, so that it lands in people's hearts, and you're actually getting to the place where people make decisions instead of using stereotypes to try and determine, well, Gen Z, they all like this stuff, and so we're going to talk to them in this way. It's nonsense. Those demographic categories have nothing to do with what's in our minds and what's in our hearts.
Very good. And one of the last question, one of the topics at our breakfast this morning was how this applies in the business-to-business environment to identifying prospects that may be small businesses or not so small businesses. How does it work? How do you apply this in the commercial business-to-business marketplace?
You know what? It's actually identically the same. People are people. Humans are humans. You don't use your brain in a different way just because you're in one room, let's say a boardroom, versus another room, let's say your living room. So the way you approach the world based on your values stays the same regardless of what it is you're doing. So if you understand the values of a group of people, which ones they have in common, whether you're trying to talk to them about a B2B decision or a B2C decision, you know, a lot of people out there are using this term, and I'm a big fan of it. It's H to H, where actually none of that other stuff exists. It's all about humans to humans. B2B and B2C it's a false construct that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
David, Allison, great to see you today. Just tell us a little bit about your new book and your company and the services you provide.
The company's called the Valuegraphics Research Company. We go out to organizations of all kinds, all shapes, all sizes, all over the world, and help them understand the people that they're trying to motivate and engage and influence based on what actually motivates, engages, and influences people, which is their values. The book is called The Death of Demographics. It's a great way to get started thinking with a values-driven lens, because there's a little quiz in there that you can use for your customers, prospects, employees, whoever you want to try and understand. Give them the quiz, points you to a part of the book that tells you a whole lot about different kinds of people out there in the world. And our big mission in life is to just try and have everybody on earth change the way they look at people. Stop using outdated ideas about men and women, rich and poor, young and old, black and white, gay and straight, and start thinking about people based on the values we have in our hearts that unite us.
David Allison from the Valuegraphics Research Company in Vancouver, Canada. Great to see you here in New York, and thanks for visiting with us at the Marketing Club of New York and CBSI Talking Business.
Thanks for having me over.
Pleasure. This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Talking Business and the Marketing Club of New York. Thanks for watching.